Cheers.
I bet you $50 million you can't make me fall in love with you in 3 months. The words hung in the air like crystal chandeliers, beautiful, expensive, and dangerously fragile. Isla Moreau stood in the center of the Imperial Ballroom at the Belvedere Grand Hotel in Geneva, surrounded by Switzerland's elite, holding a champagne flute that cost more than her monthly rent, staring at the most arrogant man she'd ever met. Rhys Kincaid, 6'3" of tailored perfection, with dark hair that fell just slightly over storm-gray eyes, a jawline that could cut diamonds, and a smile that promised both heaven and ruin. The 32-year-old CEO of Kincaid Industries, a tech and luxury hospitality empire worth $8 billion, stood before her with that infuriating smirk, waiting for her answer. "Excuse me?" Isla's voice was steady, even though her heart hammered against her ribs. "You heard me." Rhys stepped closer, and she caught the scent of his cologne, something dark and expensive that probably cost more than her car. $50 million, 3 months, make me fall in love with you, and the money is yours. Fail, and you work for me for 1 year. No salary, just the experience of learning from the best. The orchestra played something soft and elegant in the background. Around them, men in Tom Ford and women dripping in Cartier pretended not to listen while hanging on every word. Isla Moreau was not supposed to be here. She was a 26-year-old hospitality consultant from Lyon, invited to this charity gala only because her firm had done work for the hotel. She'd borrowed the midnight blue gown from her best friend, Colette. Her shoes were last season's sale rack. Her jewelry was costume. But Rhys Kincaid didn't know that. He'd approached her an hour ago, intrigued by something he'd overheard her say to a colleague about luxury being about feeling, not just money. They'd talked, sparred really, each word a challenge, each glance a dare. And now this. "Why would you make such a ridiculous bet?" she asked. His smile widened. "Because I've never been in love, not once, and I've had every type of woman try. Supermodels, actresses, heiresses, geniuses. My heart is apparently made of stone. My mother says I'm incapable of real emotion. I say I just haven't met anyone worth feeling anything for." "How romantic," Isla said dryly. "But you—" He gestured with his whiskey glass, his eyes roaming over her face with an intensity that made her skin tingle. "You're different. You don't fawn. You don't giggle at my jokes. You challenged every point I made about luxury branding. You're either genuinely unimpressed or an excellent actress. Either way, I'm intrigued. So you want to pay me to date you? I want to see if someone as clever as you can crack the code everyone else has failed to break. It's a game, Ms. Moreau, and I always win my games." There it was, the arrogance that should have sent her walking away. But something in his eyes, something beneath the practiced charm, looked almost lonely. And Isla had always been a sucker for puzzles. Besides, $50 million would change everything. She could pay off her father's medical debts, save her family's small hotel in Lyon from foreclosure, never worry about money again. "And if I refuse," she asked, "then I'll assume you're afraid of losing." Isla's fingers tightened on her champagne flute. She'd grown up watching her parents pour their hearts into their small boutique hotel, only to watch it slowly die as corporate chains swallowed the industry. She'd studied hospitality management, worked brutal hours, climbed her way to a decent position, but it was never enough, never fast enough. This man, with his casual billions and his board games, had no idea what real stakes looked like. But maybe that was his weakness. One condition, she said. Rhys raised an eyebrow. You're negotiating? You want me to make you fall in love? Then you have to actually give me a chance. No walls, no sabotage. You have to be honest with me, spend real time with me, let me in. Otherwise, what's the point? Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, perhaps, or respect. Deal. He extended his hand. Isla took it. The moment their palms touched, electricity shot up her arm. His hand was warm, strong, and he held on just a second too long. One more thing, Rhys said, pulling her closer, close enough that she could see silver flecks in his grey eyes. We seal all important deals with a kiss in my family. Old tradition. That's not a real tradition. Humor me. Before she could protest, he leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. It was meant to be quick, playful, meaningless, but the moment their mouths met, the world tilted. His lips were warm and sure, and when his hand came up to cup her jaw, something molten pooled in her stomach. The kiss lasted 5 seconds, maybe less. But when he pulled away, Rhys Kincaid looked at her differently, like he'd tasted something unexpected. Something dangerous. 3 months, he said softly, starting now. And Isla realized, with a thrill of fear and excitement, that she'd just made a deal with the devil in a $5,000 suit. But what she didn't know was that Rhys Kincaid wasn't making this bet for fun. He was making it to save his life. And the clock was already ticking. The morning after the gala, Isla woke to find a contract on her doorstep. Actually, it wasn't just a contract. It was a leather portfolio from Hermes, containing a 30-page legal document, a black American Express Centurion card with her name on it, and a handwritten note on cream cardstock. Your first task is to meet me for breakfast at Le Jardin at 9 a.m. Wear something comfortable. We're going flying. RK. Isla stared at the note, her coffee going cold in her hand. The man worked fast. The contract spelled out everything. 3 months of genuine romantic engagement, no interference from either party, complete honesty required, and a confidentiality clause that would cost her $10 million if she breathed a word to anyone. At the bottom, in elegant script, was a clause she'd insisted on. The participant, Rhys Kincaid, agrees to openness, vulnerability, and genuine effort in allowing emotional connection. He'd actually agreed to it. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Don't be late. I hate waiting. RK. 30 minutes later, Isla stood outside Le Jardin, one of Geneva's most exclusive restaurants, in dark jeans, a cream cashmere sweater, and riding boots. The closest thing to comfortable in her limited wardrobe. A black SUV pulled up, and a driver opened the door. Ms. Moreau, Mr. Kincaid is waiting at the terrace. The restaurant was closed to the public, opened specially for them. Rhys sat at a table overlooking Lake Geneva, the morning sun catching in his dark hair. He wore a black sweater and dark pants, looking less like a billionaire CEO and more like a dangerously handsome professor. You're 2 minutes late, he said, without looking up from his tablet. You're lucky I came at all. That made him smile. Coffee? I had them prepare your preferred double espresso with steamed milk. No sugar. Isla froze. How did you? I do my research. He gestured to the seat across from him. I know you graduated top of your class from École Hôtelière de Lausanne. I know your parents own the Maison Moreau in Lyon, currently struggling with debt. I know you've been sending them half your salary for 2 years. I know you're fiercely loyal, probably too honest for your own good, and you bite your lower lip when you're thinking. She sat down slowly, unnerved by how much he'd learned in less than 12 hours. That's invasive. That's thorough. If I'm going to potentially fall in love with you, I should know who you are. Or you could just ask me. Where's the fun in that? He slid a menu toward her. Order whatever you want. Then we fly to Cap d'Antibes. I have a villa there. We'll spend the weekend getting to know each other. I have work. I bought your time from your firm. You're on a 3-month sabbatical, fully paid. I told them you're doing an exclusive consultation project for me, which technically you are. Isla's mouth fell open. You can't just... I can, and I did. $50 million is on the line, Ms. Moreau. Did you think we'd date casually on weekends between your client meetings? He had a point. This wasn't a normal relationship. It was a challenge, a game. And apparently, Rhys Kincaid played to win. Fine, she said, but I have conditions. More conditions? He looked amused. I'm not sleeping with you. Not even for 50 million. Not even for 50 billion. Something heated flickered in his eyes. Noted. Though I should warn you, I'm very charming when I want to be. You might change your mind. I won't. We'll see. The breakfast was exquisite. Fresh pastries, fruit, smoked salmon, perfectly poached eggs. They ate mostly in silence, sizing each other up like chess players studying the board. Finally, Rhys leaned back in his chair. Tell me about your first love. The question caught her off guard. Why? Because you're supposed to make me fall in love. I should know if you understand what love actually looks like. Isla considered lying, keeping her cards close, but the contract required honesty. And besides, she was curious if he'd reciprocate. His name was Julian, she said. We were together for 3 years. He proposed. I said yes. Then I found him in bed with my roommate 2 weeks before the wedding. Rhys's expression darkened. He's an idiot. He said I was too focused on work, too ambitious, that I made him feel small. Then he was weak and an idiot. Rhys's voice was sharp. Never apologize for your ambition, Isla. It's the most attractive thing about you. The way he said her name, Isla, not Ms. Moreau, sent warmth through her chest. Your turn, she said. Tell me about your first love. Never had one. Never. I've had relationships, several. But love? He shook his head. I've never felt what other people describe, that all-consuming need, that fear of loss, that joy in someone else's presence. I thought maybe I was broken. My therapist says I have intimacy issues. You have a therapist? 4 of them, actually. I like to get multiple perspectives. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. My father died when I was 16. Heart attack. One moment he was there, the next he was gone. My mother fell apart. I had to take over the company, manage everything, be the adult. I think I just shut down the part of me that feels those things. Easier that way. There it was, the crack in the armor, the real Rhys beneath the polished surface. I'm sorry, Isla said softly. Don't be. It made me successful. You can't build an empire if you're worried about feelings. Maybe, Or maybe you built an empire because you were afraid to feel anything else. His eyes locked on hers, and for a moment, the air between them crackled with something dangerous and electric. "This is going to be interesting," he said quietly. And in the shadows of the restaurant, someone watched them through the window, took a photograph, and sent it to a phone number with no name attached. The message read, "He's started the game. Phase 1 is active." If you're loving this story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this romance is about to take some dark, unexpected turns you won't want to miss. The helicopter ride to Cap d'Antibes was breathtaking. Isla had never been in a private helicopter, and despite her determination to remain unimpressed by Rhys's wealth, she couldn't help pressing her face to the window as they soared over the French Riviera. The Mediterranean sparkled like crushed sapphires below them, and the coastline unfurled in shades of blue and gold. Rhys watched her with barely concealed amusement. "First time? Is it that obvious? You look like a child on Christmas morning." "Then you're doing something right," she said, "because the point of luxury is to create wonder, not boredom. If you're not amazed by a helicopter ride over the sea, you're already dead inside." Ouch! Truth hurts. But he was smiling, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. "You're going to be trouble, aren't you?" That was the plan. The villa was perched on a cliff overlooking the sea, a sprawling white structure with floor-to-ceiling windows, infinity pools, and gardens that cascaded down the hillside. Staff members materialized to take their bags, and a housekeeper named Margot welcomed them in perfect French. "Your rooms are prepared, Monsieur Kincaid, Mademoiselle Moreau. Dinner will be served at 8, unless you prefer something earlier." "8 is fine," Rhys said. "And Margot, we'd like privacy this weekend, minimal staff presence." "Of course, monsieur." Isla followed Rhys through the villa, trying not to gawk at the original artwork, the marble floors, the view that looked like a painting. Her room was a suite, larger than her entire apartment, with a balcony overlooking the sea and a bathroom with a soaking tub the size of a small pool. "I'll let you settle in," Rhys said from the doorway. "Meet me at the pool in an hour. We should talk strategy." "Strategy? You're trying to make me fall in love. I assume you have a plan." "Do you plan falling in love?" "You can plan creating the conditions for it." Isla shook her head. "That's your problem. You think love is a formula, variables and outcomes. Isn't it? Chemical reactions in the brain, patterns of behavior, emotional compatibility. Is that what your 4 therapists told you?" He laughed, and it was a real laugh, rich and warm. "1 hour, Isla. Wear a swimsuit. The pool is heated." After he left, Isla explored the suite, trying to process everything. 24 hours ago, she was struggling to pay bills. Now, she was in a billionaire's villa, playing a game she didn't fully understand, with stakes that kept feeling higher. She changed into the one swimsuit she'd brought, a simple black one-piece, and wrapped herself in the silk robe hanging in the closet. When she made her way to the pool, she found Rhys already there, swimming laps with the focused intensity of someone who did everything at full speed. He cut through the water like a knife, muscles moving beneath tanned skin, and when he surfaced at the edge of the pool near her, water streaming down his face, Isla's mouth went dry. "Coming in?" he asked. I don't swim with people I'm trying to manipulate. Is that what you're doing? Manipulating me? Isn't that what this is? Rhys hauled himself out of the pool in one smooth motion, water sluicing off his body. He was lean and muscular, with a faint scar across his ribs and another on his shoulder. I prefer to think of it as persuasion. Manipulation implies dishonesty. Our contract requires honesty. Does it bother you, Isla asked, settling into a lounge chair, that I'm only here for the money? No. He grabbed a towel, drying his hair. I respect honesty about motivations. Most people pretend they want me for my personality. You're refreshingly transparent. And you? Why are you really doing this? Rhys sat down on the chair next to hers, close enough that she could see water droplets on his collarbone. I told you. I'm curious. $50 million for curiosity. I spend more than that on a yacht I use twice a year. That's obscene. That's wealth. He leaned back, studying her. But you're right. There's more to it. I'm listening. He was quiet for a long moment, his eyes on the horizon. My mother is dying. Cancer. Stage 4. She has maybe 6 months, maybe less. Isla's breath caught. Rhys, I'm so sorry. She's been telling me for years that my biggest failure is never learning to love, that I'm so closed off, I'll die alone, that I'll regret not letting anyone in. His voice was carefully controlled. I don't want her last thoughts of me to be disappointment. So when I met you last night, when you challenged me, when I felt something, I thought maybe this was a chance to prove her wrong, or prove myself wrong. The vulnerability in his admission made Isla's chest ache. This wasn't just a game. This was a son trying to give his dying mother peace. Why did you make it a bet then? She asked softly. Because everything in my life is a transaction. It's the only language I speak fluently. And if I'm going to try this, really try, I need the stakes to be high enough that I can't back out when it gets uncomfortable. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Is it working, though? He turned to look at her, and his eyes were full of something raw and unguarded. Do you feel sorry for me? Want to help me? That's step 1, isn't it? I don't want to feel sorry for you, Isla said honestly. I want to understand you. Why? Because you're right. I felt something last night too, and I need to know if it was real or if you're just very good at this game. The air between them grew thick with tension. Rhys reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her jaw. What if it's both? He murmured. Then we're both in trouble. Maybe that's the point. He leaned in, and Isla knew he was going to kiss her again, and she knew she should stop him. This was supposed to be calculated, controlled, but when his lips met hers, soft and searching, all her careful planning evaporated. This kiss was different from the one at the gala, deeper, slower. His hand slid into her hair, and she found herself leaning into him, her fingers gripping his shoulders. He tasted like chlorine and mint, and when he made a soft sound against her mouth, heat exploded through her body. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Rhys rested his forehead against hers. This is either the best idea I've ever had, he whispered, or the worst. I vote worst, Isla said, but she didn't pull away. Liar. And in that moment, neither of them noticed the small camera hidden in the garden recording everything. The person watching the feed smiled, typed a message. They're falling faster than expected. Accelerate timeline. The weekend at the villa passed in a haze of conversation, laughter, and dangerous chemistry. They talked for hours by the pool, during long walks on the beach, over candlelit dinners prepared by a chef who materialized and vanished like a ghost. Rhys told her about building his company from the ground up after his father's death, about the pressure of expectations, about feeling like he was playing a role in his own life. Isla told him about her childhood in Lyon, helping in her parents' hotel, learning that hospitality was about making people feel seen, about her failed engagement and how it had made her distrust her own judgment, about her dreams of creating experiences that made people remember what it felt like to be alive. "You're a romantic," Rhys said on their last evening as they sat on the terrace watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. "And you're a cynic. We balance each other out. Is that what we're doing? Balancing?" He turned to her, his expression serious. "I don't know what we're doing, but I know I haven't thought about work in 3 days. I know I laughed more this weekend than I have in months. I know that when you smile at me, something in my chest feels too tight." Isla's heart hammered. "Rhys, I'm not falling in love with you," he said quickly. "Not yet, but I'm starting to understand why people do, and that's terrifying." "Why terrifying?" "Because love is loss waiting to happen. Everyone I've loved has left. My father, my mother is leaving. Love is just pain with a delay." "Or," Isla said softly, "love is knowing the pain is worth it anyway." He kissed her then, deep and urgent, and she kissed him back with equal hunger. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, the sea breeze cooling their heated skin. But when they pulled apart, Rhys's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "What is it?" Isla asked. "My assistant. There's been a situation." "What kind of situation?" He showed her the phone. It was a news alert from a gossip site. "Billionaire Rhys Kincaid in secret romance with mystery woman. Sources say it's all an elaborate bet." Isla's blood turned to ice. "How is that possible? We've only been here 3 days. The confidentiality agreement." "Someone leaked it." Rhys's voice was dangerously calm. "Someone who knew about the bet. Only 3 people knew: you, me, and my lawyer." Rhys stood abruptly, pulling out his phone. "I'm calling him now." But as he walked away, Isla's mind raced. Something about this felt wrong. The leak was too fast, too specific, and the article mentioned things that hadn't even happened yet. Calling it an elaborate bet suggested someone had inside knowledge. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You're playing a rigged game, Isla. Ask him about the codicil. Ask him what happens if he falls in love." "A friend." She stared at the message, her stomach twisting. "Codicil? What codicil?" When Rhys returned, his face was tight with anger. "My lawyer swears it wasn't him. Someone else knows. I'm going to find out who and destroy them." "Rhys, I need to ask you something." "Not now, Isla. I need to do damage control. Is there a codicil to our contract?" He froze. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats too long. "Answer me," Isla said. "It's nothing. If it was nothing, you'd tell me." Rhys ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncomfortable. "There's a clause in my father's trust. If I'm not married by my 33rd birthday, which is in 4 months, I lose control of Kincaid Industries. The board takes over. Isla felt like she'd been slapped. You're 32. Yes. You made this bet 3 months before you need to be married. Yes. So this was never about love. This was about finding a wife before a deadline. No. Were you going to tell me? Isla's voice rose. Or were you just going to string me along for 3 months, make me fall for you, and then propose because you had no choice? It's not like that. Then what is it like, Rhys? Because right now, it looks like I'm the idiot in a game I didn't even know I was playing. I made the bet because I thought you could help me understand love, he said urgently. The trust clause is real, but that's not why I chose you. How convenient that solving your emotional problems also solves your financial ones. Isla, listen to me. I'm done listening. She stood, her hands shaking. This weekend, everything you said, everything we did, was any of it real? All of it was real. But the terms weren't. The contract wasn't. You set this up as a bet to cover your actual agenda. You're not trying to fall in love. You're trying to secure your inheritance. I'm trying to do both. That's not how love works. Isla's voice cracked. You can't calculate it. You can't manipulate it. You can't make it happen on a deadline because your lawyers require it. Then what do you want me to do? Rhys's composure finally shattered. I'm trying, Isla. For the first time in 16 years, I'm actually trying to let someone in. And yes, there are other stakes, but that doesn't make this fake. Doesn't it? She stepped back. Because I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if you're playing a role or if this is actually you. I don't know either, he said quietly. That's the problem. I've been playing roles for so long, I don't remember how to be anything else. The honesty in his voice almost broke her resolve. Almost. I need to go home, Isla said. The contract is null and void if either party is dishonest. You lied by omission. I'm done. Isla, please. Goodbye, Rhys. She walked away, and this time he didn't follow. But as the helicopter lifted her away from the villa the next morning, Isla didn't know that walking away from Rhys Kincaid was exactly what someone had been counting on. And the real game was just beginning. Isla returned to Lyon with a broken heart and 50 million reasons to be angry with herself. She'd walked away from the bet, which meant she got nothing. Worse, she'd walked away from something that had started to feel real, which meant she'd lost something she hadn't even known she wanted. Her best friend Colette found her 3 days later, still in pajamas, eating ice cream for breakfast. You look terrible, Colette said cheerfully, letting herself in. Thank you. Very helpful. Want to tell me why there are photos of you kissing a billionaire all over the internet? Isla groaned. Please tell me you're joking. I never joke about gossip. Colette pulled out her phone, scrolling through images. You're trending. Mystery woman steals Rhys Kincaid's heart. Billionaire in secret romance. Isla, you're famous, and you look gorgeous in that blue gown. I borrowed that gown from you. I know, and now it's iconic. You're welcome. Despite everything, Isla smiled. It's not real, Colette. It was a bet. A stupid bet that I lost because I was too stubborn and he was too manipulative. Or, Colette said, settling onto the couch, you both caught feelings in a situation where feelings weren't supposed to happen, and now you're scared. I'm not scared, I'm angry. You can be both. Isla's phone rang. Rhys, she declined it. It was the 14th time he'd called in 3 days. You should talk to him, Colette said. Why? So he can lie to me again? Or so he can explain? People are complicated, Isla. Rich people are complicated with lawyers. Give him a chance. But Isla wasn't ready. Instead, she threw herself into work, taking on every project her firm offered. If she couldn't have $50 million, she'd earn it the old-fashioned way, slowly, painfully, one client at a time. 2 weeks later, she was in a meeting with a potential client when her boss pulled her aside. We have a problem, Bernard said, his face grave. What kind of problem? Someone's been digging into your background, asking questions about your work, your ethics, your relationship with Rhys Kincaid. Ice flooded Isla's veins. Who? They wouldn't say. But they've contacted 3 of our major clients, suggesting that you were involved in some kind of scandalous affair that could damage their reputations by association. That's absurd. I know it is. But perception matters in this industry. I'm going to have to pull you from the Belmont project. Bernard, you can't. I have to. I'm sorry, Isla. Until this blows over, you're on administrative leave. Isla left the office in a daze. Someone was sabotaging her. Someone who knew about Rhys, about the bet, about everything. Her phone rang. Rhys again. This time she answered, "What do you want?" Her voice was sharp. "To help you." He sounded tired. "I know what's happening. Someone is coming after both of us." "What are you talking about?" "Can you meet me? There's something you need to know." "I'm done with your games." "Rhys, this isn't a game anymore." His voice was urgent. "Someone is trying to destroy us both, and I think I know why. But I need your help to stop them." Isla closed her eyes. Every instinct screamed at her to hang up, to walk away, to protect herself. But something in his voice, fear maybe, or desperation, made her pause. "1 meeting," she said. "That's all you get." "Thank you. I'll send a car. I'll take the train." Isla, "The train, Rhys. I'm not your possession." "I know." A pause. "I'm sorry. For everything." She hung up before she could respond. They met at a small cafe in Geneva, far from the glittering world of galas and villas. Rhys arrived in jeans and a simple sweater, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. There were dark circles under his eyes. "You look terrible," she said, sitting down. "So I've been told." He managed a weak smile. "Thank you for coming. Tell me what's going on." Rhys pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table. "Do you know who Thalia Winters is?" Isla frowned. "The hotel heiress. Her family owns the Winters chain. And my biggest competitor. 6 months ago, I outbid her for a property in Barcelona. She lost a deal worth $200 million. She swore she'd make me pay." "You think she leaked the story about the bet?" "I think she did more than that." Rhys opened the folder. Inside were photos of Isla at the gala, of them at the villa, of intimate moments that should have been private. "She's had us followed since the beginning. And look at this." He showed her a document. It was an email chain between someone named TW and a journalist, discussing a story about exposing Rhys Kincaid's fake romance and his desperation to secure his inheritance. "She's trying to destroy my reputation," Rhys said. "If the board thinks I'm manipulating my personal life to meet trust requirements, they could argue I'm unfit to lead. And by association, She's destroying yours, making you look like a gold digger who seduced a billionaire. Isla's hands clenched. Why tell me this? Because I need your help to stop her, and because you deserve to know the truth. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. I was wrong not to tell you about the trust clause. I was wrong to frame this as a bet when it was really me trying to figure out how to be human again. But my feelings for you, Isla, those were real, are real. How can I believe that? Because I'm still here. Because even after you left, even after the leak, even though the bet is over and I could walk away, I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop wanting to talk to you. I can't stop remembering what it felt like when you looked at me like I was worth something. His voice cracked on the last words, and Isla felt her carefully constructed walls begin to crumble. Thalia is planning something bigger, Rhys continued. I don't know what yet, but she's not done. And if we don't work together, she's going to take us both down. Isla stared at the photos, at the evidence of manipulation and surveillance. She thought about her career, her reputation, her family's hotel. She thought about the man across from her, who was flawed and damaged and trying. What do you want me to do? She asked finally. Help me figure out what she's planning. And then help me stop her. He reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers. I know I don't deserve your trust, but I'm asking for it anyway. Isla looked at his hand, at his face, at the vulnerability in his eyes that no amount of wealth could hide. She thought about walking away again, about playing it safe, about protecting her heart, but she'd never been good at playing it safe. Fine, she said, but this time we do things my way. No more secrets, no more games. If we're going to take down Thalia Winters, we do it honestly. Agreed. She took his hand, and his fingers closed around hers with desperate relief. So what's the plan? She asked. Rhys smiled, and for the first time in weeks, it reached his eyes. We give her exactly what she wants. We make her think she's winning. And then we turn the tables. But neither of them knew that Thalia Winters wasn't the only enemy in this game, and the person they should have been watching was sitting 3 tables away, listening to every word. Over the next 2 weeks, Isla and Rhys became co-conspirators. They met in secret, always in different locations, always careful to avoid cameras. Rhys's security team swept for bugs. His tech specialists tracked Thalia's communications. Slowly, a picture emerged of her plan. Thalia wasn't just trying to ruin Rhys's reputation. She was trying to trigger a hostile takeover of Kincaid Industries. She'd been quietly buying up shares through shell companies, positioning herself to make a move the moment the board lost confidence in Rhys. She needs one more thing, Rhys explained as they sat in his penthouse office late one night, going through documents. A catalyst, something that makes the board believe I'm unstable, reckless, or compromised. Like what? Isla asked, sipping coffee that had long since gone cold. Like a public meltdown, a scandal, something that proves I'm letting my personal life destroy my professional judgment. So, we don't give her that. No, we give her something better. Rhys leaned back in his chair, his eyes gleaming with strategy. We make her think she's found the perfect catalyst, and when she moves on it, we expose her. How? There's a charity auction in 3 days, the Geneva Elite Foundation. Thalia will be there. So will every major player in European luxury industries and most of my board members. He pulled up an invitation on his tablet. We attend together. We put on a show. We make it look like we're recklessly in love, making stupid decisions, letting passion override logic. And that helps us how? Because Thalia has a leak in my company, someone feeding her information. We've narrowed it down to 3 people. If we stage the right scenario, we can smoke them out. And once we know who's betraying me, we can trace them back to Thalia's full plan. Isla studied his face. In the dim light of the office, exhaustion made him look younger, more vulnerable. This is a huge risk. If it backfires, you lose everything. I'm already losing everything. My mother has maybe 8 weeks left. The trust deadline is in 3 months. Thalia is circling like a shark. I have nothing left to lose. You have your dignity. He laughed, but it was hollow. Dignity doesn't pay for experimental cancer treatments or keep companies from being stolen. Isla stood, moving to the window that overlooked the city. Geneva glittered below them, all lights and wealth and hidden darkness. What happens after we expose Thalia? What happens to us? What do you want to happen? She turned to face him. I want to know if this is real. I want to know if you're capable of actually feeling something, or if this is all just another performance. Rhys stood, crossing to her. He stopped a foot away, close enough that she could see the silver in his grey eyes, the tension in his jaw. I don't know, he said quietly. I told you, I'm not sure I know the difference between real and performance anymore. But I know that when I'm with you, I feel less empty. I know that you're the first person in 16 years who's made me want to try. Is that love? I don't know, but it's something, and it's the best I can give you. It wasn't a declaration of passion. It wasn't a promise of forever, but it was honest, and maybe that was enough. Okay, Isla said, we do this. We set the trap, but after it's done, we figure out what we are. No more bets, no more deadlines, just us. Deal. He kissed her then, soft and careful, and she kissed him back with all the frustrated want that had been building for weeks. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Rhys rested his forehead against hers. I'm going to mess this up, he whispered. Probably. And you're going to call me on it. Definitely. Good. He smiled against her lips. I'd be disappointed otherwise. The Geneva Elite Foundation auction was held in a converted cathedral, all vaulted ceilings and dramatic lighting. The city's wealthiest gathered to bid on luxury experiences while pretending to care about the children's hospital that would receive 10% of the proceeds. Isla wore a dress Rhys had insisted on buying, deep emerald silk that clung to every curve and made her feel like someone else entirely. Dangerous, powerful, like a woman who belonged in this world. You look stunning, Rhys said when he picked her up. He wore a midnight blue suit that made his eyes look like storms. You clean up okay yourself. Just okay? I'm not feeding your ego right before we walk into a room full of people who worship you. He grinned. See? This is why I like you. Everyone else thinks I'm a god. You think I'm occasionally tolerable. That's not true. Sometimes I think you're actively annoying. Romance, he said dryly. You should write poetry. They arrived fashionably late, making an entrance that turned heads. Rhys kept his hand on the small of Isla's back, possessive and public. She leaned into him, playing her part, the woman who'd captured the uncapturable billionaire's heart. Whispers followed them across the room. Is that her? The one from the photos? I heard it's all a publicity stunt. No, I heard he's actually in love. Perfect. The rumors were spreading exactly as planned. Thalia Winters stood near the bar, holding court with a group of investors. She was beautiful in the way of old money, blonde, polished, with a smile that never reached her ice-blue eyes. When she saw Rhys and Isla, her expression flickered with something dark before smoothing into practiced charm. Rhys, she said, gliding over. How lovely to see you. And this must be the famous Isla Moreau. Thalia, Rhys's voice was cool. I didn't know you'd be here. I wouldn't miss it. Such a worthy cause. Her eyes raked over Isla with barely concealed contempt. I've heard so much about you, Miss Moreau, the hospitality consultant who's consulting on such personal matters. And I've heard about you, Isla said smoothly, the businesswoman who loses deals and holds grudges. Rhys coughed to cover a laugh. Thalia's smile turned sharp. I prefer to think of it as having a long memory. In business, that's an asset. In life, it's called being petty. Isla, Rhys said, his hand tightening on her waist in warning, but his eyes danced with amusement. It's fine, Thalia said. I admire directness. Tell me, Miss Moreau, how much is Rhys paying you for this performance, or is it more of an incentive-based arrangement? Careful, Rhys said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. You're talking about the woman I love. The room seemed to stop. Everyone within earshot froze. Thalia's eyes widened slightly. Love? How unexpected. Why? Rhys pulled Isla closer. Because you don't think I'm capable of it? Or because it doesn't fit your narrative? I think you're capable of many things, Rhys. Love just wasn't one I'd observed. Then you weren't paying attention. Thalia laughed, but it sounded forced. Well, congratulations. I hope you'll both be very happy. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Rhys, I'd be careful. Public declarations have a way of becoming very expensive when they fall apart. She walked away, leaving ice in her wake. That went well, Isla murmured. Too well, Rhys said quietly. She took the bait too easily. Maybe she's not as smart as you thought. Or maybe she's smarter. He pulled out his phone, typing quickly. I'm having my security check the perimeter. Something feels wrong. Before Isla could respond, the lights dimmed. A voice came over the sound system. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin the auction. Please take your seats. They found their table, front and center, exactly where Rhys had requested. Around them sat board members of Kincaid Industries, watching Rhys with varying degrees of approval and concern. The auction proceeded. Luxury vacations, rare wines, private concerts. Rhys bid aggressively on several items, making a show of consulting Isla, whispering in her ear, kissing her temple between bids, playing the part of a man distracted by love. Then came lot number 17. And now, the auctioneer said, we have something special. A private island in the Seychelles for 1 week. Starting bid, 200,000 euros. Rhys raised his paddle. 500,000. Gasps rippled through the room. Well, the auctioneer recovered quickly. 500,000 from Mr. Kincaid. Do I hear 6? Thalia raised her paddle. 600,000. Rhys didn't hesitate. 1 million. The room erupted in murmurs. Rhys, one of his board members, hissed, "What are you doing?" "Winning," Rhys said. €1 million, the auctioneer said. "Do I hear?" 2 million, Thalia said calmly. Isla's heart raced. This wasn't part of the plan. They were supposed to make Rhys look love-struck, not reckless. "Rhys," she whispered, "stop." But his eyes were locked on Thalia. €5 million. The room went silent. "Rhys," the board member stood. "This is insane." €5 million, the auctioneer repeated, his voice shaking. "Going once, going twice." Thalia smiled. 10 million. And then Isla understood. This wasn't about the island. This was about making Rhys look unstable in front of his board, making him snap, creating the catalyst. Rhys started to raise his paddle again. Isla grabbed his hand. "Don't. I can't let her win. She's already won if you do this. Look around. Your board thinks you've lost your mind. This is exactly what she wants." Rhys looked at the board members, at their concerned faces, their worried whispers. His jaw clenched. "Going once," the auctioneer said. Isla squeezed Rhys's hand. "Trust me." "Going twice," Rhys lowered his paddle. "Sold to Ms. Winters for €10 million. Applause broke out, but it was confused, uncertain. Thalia looked surprised and then disappointed. "Intermission," the auctioneer announced. "Please enjoy refreshments in the gallery." As people stood to mingle, Rhys's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his face went pale. "What?" Isla asked. "My security team. There's been a breach at my office. Someone accessed my private server during the auction." "What's on that server?" "Everything. Company secrets, personal files, details about my mother's treatment, financial records." He stood abruptly. "We need to go. Now." They rushed toward the exit, but Thalia intercepted them. "Leaving so soon?" she asked. "The night's just getting started." "Get out of my way," Rhys said. "Or what? You'll make another scene?" She smiled. "I have to say, that was disappointing. I expected you to keep bidding. I had such plans for the headlines. Billionaire loses 10 million in love-fueled auction disaster. But you stopped. How very restrained." "You broke into my office," Rhys said quietly. "Did I? How exciting. I hope your security is better than your judgment." "This is over, Thalia. Whatever game you're playing, it ends tonight." "Oh, Rhys." She leaned closer, her voice dropping. "The game hasn't even started yet. And when it does, you're going to lose everything. Your company, your reputation, and your little pretend girlfriend." She walked away, leaving them in stunned silence. "She's not bluffing," Isla said. "I know." Rhys grabbed her hand. "Come on, we need to see what she took." They drove to Kincaid Industries, in tense silence. When they arrived at the executive floor, Rhys's security team was already there, along with someone Isla didn't recognize, a woman in her 40s with short grey hair and sharp eyes. "Mr. Kincaid," the woman said, "I'm Detective Rousseau with the Geneva Police. Your security team called us. It appears there's been a significant data breach." "What did they take?" Rhys demanded. "We're still assessing, but it looks like someone had access to your system for approximately 20 minutes. They copied several files before we could lock them out." "Which files?" Detective Rousseau hesitated. "Your personal correspondence, financial records, and..." She glanced at Isla. "A document labeled Trust Requirements and marriage contingencies. Isla's blood turned cold. They know, she whispered. They know everything about the trust clause. And they'll use it to destroy me, Rhys said. If they release those files, the board will see every desperate measure I've taken, every calculation, every fake romance, Isla finished numbly. He turned to her, his face stricken. Isla, that's not... But before he could finish, his phone rang. He answered, listened, and went even paler. What? Isla asked. My mother. She's been taken to the hospital. Emergency. His voice cracked. They don't think she has much time. And in that moment, with his company being destroyed, and his mother dying, and the woman he maybe loved looking at him with doubt in her eyes, Rhys Kincaid finally understood what it meant to feel everything at once. And it was agony. The hospital was sterile and too quiet. Isla sat in the waiting room while Rhys met with his mother's doctors, her hands clenched in her lap. Around her, the evidence of life's fragility pressed in. Worried families, tired nurses, the steady beep of monitors from behind closed doors. She shouldn't be here. This was too intimate, too real. She was supposed to be playing a role, winning a bet, getting paid. Instead, she was falling in love with a man who might be using her, in a hospital where his mother was dying, feeling like her heart was being torn in two directions. Colette had texted her 7 times. Where are you? The internet is exploding. Isla hadn't looked. She didn't want to know what Thalia had released, what lies were being told, what truth was being twisted. When Rhys finally emerged from the doctor's meeting, he looked like he'd aged 10 years. His hair was disheveled from running his hands through it, his tie was loosened, and his eyes were red-rimmed. How is she? Isla asked softly. She's awake, asking for me. He sat down heavily beside her. They've given her something for the pain, but they're saying days now, maybe a week if we're lucky. I'm so sorry. She wants to meet you. Isla's breath caught. What? She heard about you, about us, about the auction, the photos, everything. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. She said, I want to meet the woman who finally made my son feel something before I die. How could I say no to that? Rhys, we're not. I know, but she doesn't know that. And I don't want to take that hope away from her. He looked at Isla with exhausted desperation. Please, just 10 minutes. Let her believe that I figured it out, that I learned to love someone, that she's leaving me less broken than she found me. It was emotional manipulation, and they both knew it, but it was also a dying mother's last wish, and Isla couldn't bring herself to refuse. Okay, she said. 10 minutes. Rhys's mother, Catherine Kincaid, looked nothing like Isla had imagined. She'd expected fragility, defeat. Instead, the woman propped up in the hospital bed had fierce eyes and a sharper smile, even through the evident pain and exhaustion. So, you're her, Catherine said, as Isla approached. The hospitality consultant who's consulting on my son's heart. I'm Isla Moreau, yes. Sit. Let me look at you properly. Catherine gestured to a chair. Rhys, go get coffee, something from across the street. The hospital coffee is punishment for sins in a past life. Mother, go. I want to talk to her alone. Rhys looked between them nervously, then left. The moment the door closed, Catherine's smile faded. How much is he paying you? Isla's stomach dropped. I don't lie to a dying woman. It's poor form. Catherine's voice was weak but sharp. I know my son. I know how his mind works. He doesn't fall in love. He strategizes. He solves problems. So when I heard he was suddenly dating someone, suddenly making public declarations, I knew there had to be a reason. The trust clause, probably. Am I right? There was no point in lying. Yes. And you agreed to this charade for money? Initially, yes. It was a bet. $50 million if I could make him fall in love with me in 3 months. Catherine laughed, which turned into a coughing fit. When she recovered, she was smiling. My God, that's exactly the kind of transactional nonsense he would come up with. And did it work? Did you make him fall in love? I don't know, Isla said honestly. I don't think he knows either. But you fell for him. It wasn't a question. Isla wanted to deny it, but under Catherine's knowing gaze, the truth spilled out. I wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to be simple. Play a role, get paid, walk away. But he's not what I expected. He's brilliant and damaged and trying so hard to figure out how to be human. And somewhere along the way, I stopped pretending. Does he know? I don't know. Everything's gotten so complicated. There's this woman, Thalia Winters, who's trying to destroy him. And tonight, she broke into his company, stole information, and now I don't know what's real and what's performance anymore. Catherine was quiet for a moment, her breath labored. Let me tell you about my son. When his father died, Rhys was 16. He walked into that office the next day and never left. He worked 18-hour days. He turned down university to run the company. He sacrificed every teenage experience, every young love, every mistake young people need to make. He did it because he thought that's what strength looked like. Shutting down, shutting out, working until you're too tired to feel. Tears welled in Catherine's eyes. I've watched him become more and more hollow. Successful, yes. Wealthy beyond measure, but empty. And I've been terrified that he'll die that way, alone, in some expensive penthouse, surrounded by things that mean nothing. But then I heard about you, about this bet, this ridiculous scheme, and you know what I thought? I thought, at least he's trying. He's doing it badly, manipulatively, in the most Rhys way possible, but he's trying to feel something. That's more than he's done in 16 years. She reached out, gripping Isla's hand with surprising strength. I'm dying, and I can't fix my son. I can't teach him how to love in the time I have left. But maybe you can. I don't know if he's capable. He is. He just needs permission to fail at it. He needs someone who won't leave when he's messy and complicated and scared. Someone who will call him on his nonsense, but stay anyway. Catherine squeezed her hand. Are you that person? Isla thought about the past weeks, the moments of genuine connection, the laughter, the heated arguments, the kisses that felt like coming home. She thought about Rhys's clumsy honesty, his desperate attempts to understand emotions he'd spent years suppressing. I want to be, she whispered. Then be. Love him imperfectly. Let him love you back just as badly. The rest will figure itself out. Catherine released her hand, exhausted from the conversation. Now go find my son and tell him I approve. And tell him to stop trying so hard to be perfect. Perfect is boring. I raised him to be extraordinary. Isla found Rhys in the hallway, pacing like a caged animal. Well, he asked anxiously, did she hate you? Did she see through everything? Did she? Isla kissed him. It was desperate and messy and public. And she didn't care. She kissed him like she was trying to tell him everything she couldn't say, that she saw him, all of him, the brilliant and broken parts, and she wasn't running. When they broke apart, Rhys stared at her in shock. What was that for? Your mother approves, Isla said, and she told me to tell you to stop trying to be perfect. What else did she say? That I should love you badly and let you love me back just as badly and figure the rest out as we go. Something cracked in Rhys's expression. Isla, His phone rang. He looked at it and closed his eyes. It's my lawyer. The board has called an emergency meeting. Tonight. They've seen the leaked files. Then we go, Isla said. Together. We face whatever Thalia's done, and we do it honestly. I could lose everything. Then you lose it. But at least you'll lose it while actually living instead of just existing. Rhys pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. When did you get so wise? About 5 minutes ago, in a conversation with your mother. He laughed, a broken sound. Of course, she always was smarter than me. They stood there for a moment, holding each other in a hospital hallway, while empires crumbled and enemies circled, and a dying woman smiled from her room, hoping she'd done enough. But in a car outside the hospital, Thalia Winters watched them through telephoto lens, her smile cold and victorious. Because what Rhys and Isla didn't know was that the leaked files weren't the real weapon. They were just the distraction. The real attack was coming, and it would destroy everything. The emergency board meeting was held at midnight in Kincaid Industries' glass-walled conference room. 12 board members sat around a mahogany table, their faces grave. Rhys's lawyer, Marcus Chen, stood at the head, looking grim. And on the screen behind him were the leaked documents, every calculation, every strategy, every desperate measure Rhys had taken to meet the trust requirements, including the contract with Isla. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, we're here to address serious concerns about Mr. Kincaid's fitness to continue as CEO. Let's not pretend this is about fitness, Rhys interrupted, standing. Isla sat behind him, her presence a quiet support. This is about Thalia Winters staging a coup. We all know it. Be that as it may, said board member Patricia Langford, a silver-haired woman who'd known Rhys's father, these documents paint a troubling picture. You've been conducting a fake romance to secure your inheritance. That shows questionable judgment. It wasn't fake, Rhys said. The contract says otherwise. The contract was a starting point. What happened after was real. Convenient, another board member, James Hartford, said coldly. You expect us to believe you fell in love right on schedule, 3 months before the trust deadline. I expect you to look at the company's performance under my leadership. Record profits for 5 consecutive years, successful expansion into Asian markets, innovation in luxury hospitality tech that's industry-leading. My personal life shouldn't matter if I'm doing my job. It matters when your personal life involves contractual relationships and manipulation, Patricia said. It suggests a lack of integrity. Isla stood. May I say something? All eyes turned to her. Who are you? James asked. Isla Moreau, the woman in question. She took a breath, willing her voice steady. You're right. We started with a contract, a bet. $50 million if I could make Rhys fall in love with me. It was transactional and calculated, and I agreed to it because I needed the money. Murmurs rippled around the table. But here's what you don't see in those documents, Isla continued. You don't see the hours we spent talking about his father, about loss, about what it means to build something meaningful. You don't see him learning to laugh again. You don't see him crying in a hospital hallway because his mother is dying and he finally understands what it means to love someone. She moved to stand beside Rhys. You see a contract. I see a man who was so desperate to feel something that he gambled $50 million on the possibility. That's not manipulation. That's hope. And if you can't see the difference, then maybe you're the ones who shouldn't be running this company. The room fell silent. Then Patricia spoke, her voice softer. Why should we believe this testimony? You have 50 million reasons to lie. I walked away from the money, Isla said. 3 weeks ago, when I found out about the trust clause, I told Rhys the bet was off. I went home. I gave up $50 million because I couldn't stand the idea that his feelings might not be real. She looked at Rhys. And then I came back, not for the money, not for the bet, but because somewhere in all this mess, I fell in love with him, the real him, the one who tries too hard and fails beautifully and is finally learning that vulnerability isn't weakness. Rhys stared at her, his eyes bright, with unshed tears. Isla, let me finish. She turned back to the board. You want to fire him because he's human, because he made a mistake while trying to honor his father's trust and his mother's dying wish? Then go ahead. But you won't be firing a manipulator. You'll be firing the most driven, brilliant, and yes, flawed CEO this company has ever had. Patricia and James exchanged glances. We need to discuss this in private, Patricia said. Mr. Kincaid, Ms. Moreau, please wait outside. They left the conference room and stood in the empty hallway. The moment the door closed, Rhys grabbed Isla's hand. You love me, he said. Apparently. You walked away from $50 million. I did. You're either the stupidest or bravest person I've ever met. Probably both. He kissed her, desperate and grateful, and she kissed him back with everything she had. When they broke apart, both shaking, Rhys pressed his forehead to hers. I love you, he whispered. I don't know when it happened or how, but I love you. You're the first thing I think about when I wake up, and the last thing I think about before I sleep. You make me want to be better. You make me want to actually live, instead of just work. That's a pretty good declaration for someone who's never been in love before. I have excellent teachers. He pulled back to look at her. If I lose the company, if I lose everything, will you stay? That depends. Will you stop trying to control everything and just let yourself be messy and human? I can try. Then I'll stay. They kissed again, softer this time, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them. No board meeting, no enemies, no stakes, just two damaged people trying to figure out how to love each other. The conference room door opened. Mr. Kincaid, Patricia said, we've reached a decision. They filed back in. 12 faces watched them, unreadable. We've reviewed the evidence, Patricia began. We've discussed the implications, and we've made a determination. Rhys squeezed Isla's hand. While we find your methods unconventional, Patricia continued, we cannot dispute your results. Kincaid Industries has thrived under your leadership, and Ms. Moreau's testimony has given us pause about judging your personal life when your professional performance has been exemplary. Hope flickered in Rhys's chest. However, James added, we cannot ignore that these leaks have damaged the company's reputation. We need a show of stability. We need assurance that your judgment is sound. What are you asking? Rhys said. Patricia smiled slightly. We're asking you to honor your father's trust requirements. Get married. Prove that this relationship is real and stable. Do that, and we'll back you against Thalia Winters and anyone else who challenges your position. Isla's heart stopped. They were asking Rhys to marry her, on demand, for the company. And if I refuse, Rhys asked quietly, then we'll have to seriously consider whether you're fit to continue as CEO. The trust clause exists for a reason. Your father wanted to ensure you'd have balance in your life, someone to ground you. If you're not willing to honor that, perhaps he was right to include it. Rhys looked at Isla. She saw the question in his eyes. Would you? For real this time? And she wanted to say yes. God, she wanted to. But not like this. Not under pressure. Not because a board demanded it. No, Rhys said. The room exploded in reactions. Rhys, Marcus started. No, Rhys repeated, standing. I won't marry Isla because you're requiring it. I won't turn the realest thing in my life into another transaction to satisfy corporate politics. Then you're making a very expensive mistake, James said. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. Rhys looked at each board member in turn. My father's trust clause was meant to ensure I found love. Well, I did. Against all odds, despite my best efforts to remain closed off, I fell in love with this woman. And I'm not going to ruin that by turning our relationship into a business requirement. He held out his hand to Isla. If I lose the company, I lose it. But I won't lose her by treating her like another deal to close. Isla took his hand, her throat tight with emotion. Patricia shook her head. You're as stubborn as your father. I'll take that as a compliment. It wasn't one, but she was almost smiling. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks. In the meantime, figure out what you're doing, Rhys, because Thalia Winters isn't done with you yet. As they left the building, hand in hand, Isla finally asked the question burning in her mind. What now? Now? Rhys stopped, turning to face her under the streetlights. Now, I stop trying to win this game and start trying to actually live, starting with this. He dropped to one knee. Isla's breath caught. Rhys, what are you? Marry me, he said. Not because the board demands it, not because of the trust clause, not for $50 million or corporate strategy or any other calculated reason. Marry me because I love you, because you make me laugh and call me on my nonsense and make me want to be better, because I'm terrified of losing you and even more terrified of not trying. He pulled out a ring. Where had that come from? And Isla realized he must have been carrying it, hoping for the right moment. This isn't perfect timing, he continued. My mother is dying. My company is under attack. I have no idea what the future holds, but I know I want you in it. Not as a contract, not as a bet, but as my wife, my partner, my home. Tears streamed down Isla's face. You're doing this in the street. I know. There are no photographers, no audience, nothing to gain from this. I know. It's completely impractical. We've only known each other for 2 months. I know that too. And you're still asking? I am. His voice cracked slightly. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not calculating odds or planning outcomes. I'm just feeling. And what I feel is that I don't want to spend another day pretending I'm fine without you." Isla looked at the man kneeling before her. The billionaire who'd built empires but couldn't build walls high enough to keep her out. The cynic who'd bet $50 million that love was impossible, only to lose that bet spectacularly. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you. You ridiculous, brilliant, emotionally stunted man. Yes." He stood, sliding the ring onto her finger, a simple emerald surrounded by diamonds that caught the streetlight like captured stars. Then he kissed her, and Isla kissed him back, and neither of them cared that they were blocking the sidewalk, or that somewhere enemies were plotting, or that the future was uncertain. Because in that moment, they had each other. And that was enough. But in a penthouse across the city, Thalia Winters watched the live feed from a hidden camera and smiled. Because she'd expected this, planned for it even. And now she was going to use their love against them in ways they'd never see coming. 3 days later, Rhys Kincaid died peacefully in her sleep, with Rhys holding one hand and Isla holding the other. "Thank you," Catherine had whispered to Isla in one of her last lucid moments, "for teaching him it's okay to break." The funeral was private, elegant, and devastating. Rhys delivered a eulogy that made even the stoic board members cry, talking about his mother's fierce intelligence, her stubborn hope, and her insistence that life was meant to be felt, not just survived. "She spent 16 years watching me turn into a machine," Rhys said, his voice steady, but his eyes red. "And in her last months, she got to see me become human again. I owe that to many things: her persistence, my own desperation, and a woman who took a bet on an impossible man and somehow made the impossible happen." He looked at Isla in the front row. "Mum, if you're listening, I'm going to keep feeling things, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because you taught me that the hurt means I'm alive." After the service, as guests mingled in Catherine's favorite garden, Rhys pulled Isla aside. "She left you something," he said quietly. "What? Why would she—" He handed her an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Dear Isla, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I hope my death was peaceful and that Rhys didn't make a scene. He probably did. He's dramatic when he thinks no one's looking. I want to thank you for giving my son the greatest gift I never could: permission to fail at being perfect. He's spent his whole life thinking he had to have all the answers. You showed him that questions are just as valuable. I'm leaving you something in my will. Not money. Rhys has plenty of that, and I suspect you're not with him for financial reasons anyway. I'm leaving you my grandmother's hotel in Provence. It's small, charming, and falling apart. Rhys's father wanted to sell it for years, but I refused. It was where I fell in love with his father, and I always believed love deserved a permanent address. Fix it up. Make it yours. Make it a place where people remember what it feels like to be human. And when Rhys gets too caught up in his empire building, drag him there and remind him why any of it matters. Love him well. Love him honestly. And when he inevitably does something stupid, remind him that I raised him better." With gratitude, Catherine Isla's hands shook. "She left me a hotel in Provence, about an hour from Lyon." Rhys smiled through his grief. "She bought it 6 decades ago with my grandfather. It's been sitting empty for years because she couldn't bear to sell it. I think she was waiting for the right person. Rhys, I can't accept. You can, and you will. It's what she wanted. He pulled Isla close. Besides, I have plans for it. What plans? I'll tell you after the wedding. Right, the wedding. In all the chaos of Catherine's death and Thalia's attacks, they'd almost forgotten they'd gotten engaged. When were you thinking? Isla asked. 2 weeks, small ceremony, close friends and family only. 2 weeks? Rhys, I can't plan a wedding in 2 weeks. You don't have to. I already hired a planner. At her look, he added quickly, but you get final approval on everything. Location, flowers, dress, food, whatever you want. I just want you to actually enjoy this, instead of drowning in logistics. You hired a wedding planner 3 days ago. I hired her the night I bought the ring. I was optimistic. Despite everything, Isla laughed. You're insane. You said yes to me. What does that make you? Just as insane. She kissed him softly. 2 weeks then. 2 weeks. The wedding planner was a miracle worker named Simone, who somehow transformed a garden venue outside Geneva into a romantic wonderland in 14 days. White roses, soft lighting, an intimate space for 50 guests. Everything Isla would have chosen if she'd had months instead of weeks. It's perfect, Isla said during the final walkthrough the day before the wedding. It will be, Simone corrected. Tomorrow, when you're standing here in your dress, marrying that impossibly handsome man of yours, then it will be perfect. That night, Rhys insisted on the traditional separation before the wedding. Bad luck to see the bride, he said, kissing Isla goodnight at her hotel room door. You don't believe in luck. I don't believe in risking you. Sap. You're sap. He kissed her again, lingering. Tomorrow, Isla Moreau becomes Isla Kincaid. How does that feel? Terrifying. Exciting. Right. All the best things are. One more kiss. Sleep well, my almost wife. You too, my almost husband. But Isla couldn't sleep. She lay awake, thinking about how much had changed in 3 months. She'd gone from struggling consultant to billionaire's fiancé, from emotionally guarded to willingly vulnerable, from chasing money to chasing love. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Congratulations on your wedding. I hope you enjoy it. It'll be your last happy memory. TW. Ice flooded Isla's veins. She called Rhys immediately. What's wrong? He answered on the first ring. Thalia just texted me. She threatened me. What? How did she get your number? I don't know, but Rhys, she said tomorrow will be our last happy memory. What if she's planning something? I'll double security. Triple it. She's not getting anywhere near you. What if that's not enough? Rhys was quiet for a moment. Then we cancel. Postpone. Wait until she's been dealt with. No. Isla surprised herself with the firmness in her voice. No. If we postpone, she wins. She makes us afraid to live our lives. I'm not giving her that power. Isla, I mean it, Rhys. We're getting married tomorrow, and if Thalia Winters wants to try something, let her. We'll handle it together. God, I love you. I know. Now go to sleep. Tomorrow's a big day. Not a chance I'm sleeping after that text. Then don't sleep. But be ready to marry me at 3 o'clock tomorrow, Rhys Kincaid. No excuses. Wouldn't miss it for anything. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, and I know you are because you're still here, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more dramatic billionaire romance stories. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The day of the wedding dawned clear and perfect. Too perfect, Isla thought, as she got ready in her hotel suite. Colette fussed with her hair, while her mother dabbed at tears, and Isla tried not to think about all the ways this day could go wrong. Security was everywhere. Rhys's team had vetted every vendor, every guest, every single rose in the arrangements. "You look like a dream," her mother said in French, adjusting Isla's veil. "I always knew you'd find someone special. I just didn't expect him to be so rich." "Maman, he's not—" "I'm teasing. I saw the way he looks at you at the funeral, like you hung the moon. That's worth more than all his billions." Colette handed Isla her bouquet, white roses and French lavender, simple and elegant. "Ready?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's the spirit." The garden was transformed into something magical. Afternoon sunlight filtered through trees strung with lights. Guests sat in white chairs, murmuring appreciation. And at the end of the aisle, next to the officiant, stood Rhys. He wore a dark blue suit that made his grey eyes look like storms. His hair was slightly disheveled, as always. And when he saw Isla appear at the far end of the aisle, his expression transformed into something so tender, so openly emotional, that several guests gasped. Isla walked toward him slowly, her arm linked through her father's. Each step felt significant, like she was walking toward her entire future. When they reached the altar, her father kissed her cheek and whispered, "Be happy, ma petite." Then she was standing in front of Rhys, and nothing else existed. "Hi," he said softly. "Hi. You look, I don't have words." "That's a first." The officiant cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" The ceremony was traditional, but personalized. The officiant spoke about love as choice, as daily decision, as the courage to be vulnerable. Then it was time for vows. Rhys went first, pulling out a folded paper that shook slightly in his hands. "Isla," he began, "3 months ago, I made a bet that I could never fall in love. I was so sure I was right. I'd spent 16 years proving it, working instead of living, building walls instead of bridges, choosing safety over risk every single time." He looked up from the paper, directly into her eyes. "Then you called me out for my terrible definition of luxury. You challenged every assumption I had about the world and myself. You looked at me like I was worth more than my bank account, and somewhere along the way, you made me want to be the man you saw instead of the machine I'd become." His voice cracked. "I don't have all the answers. I'm going to mess this up regularly. I'm going to work too much and forget to ask how your day was, and probably try to solve problems that just need listening. But I promise you this, I will keep trying. I will keep choosing vulnerability over walls. I will keep loving you even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because you taught me that the hard parts are what make it real." He folded the paper. "You're my home, Isla, my safe place, my best decision, and I choose you, today and every day after." Isla was crying. Half the guests were crying. Even the officiant looked misty-eyed. "Isla," the officiant prompted gently. Isla took a shaky breath. "Rhys, I didn't write anything down because I knew I'd cry and ruin the paper." That got a laugh from the guests. "But I want to say this. I came into your life for the wrong reasons. I wanted money. I wanted to save my family. I wanted to win a game, and instead, I found someone who needed saving just as much as I did. Someone who was drowning in success, but starving for connection. Someone who thought love was a weakness when it's actually the bravest thing you can do. She reached up to cup his face. You're not perfect. Thank God for that. Perfect would be boring. You're real, flawed, complicated. You try too hard and overthink everything, and sometimes you need me to remind you that not everything is a problem to solve. And I love you exactly as you are, while believing in who you're becoming. I choose you too, she continued. Your brilliant mind and broken pieces, your terrible jokes and your surprising kindness, your empire and your vulnerability, all of it, all of you, today and every day after. The officiant smiled. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Rhys, you may kiss your bride. Rhys pulled Isla close and kissed her deeply, thoroughly, with all the emotion he'd spent 16 years suppressing. The guests erupted in applause. When they finally broke apart, both glowing, the officiant presented them. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. Kincaid. As they walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, Isla felt something she'd never felt before, complete. Like all the broken pieces had finally found where they fit. The reception was joyful. There was dinner, dancing, toasts that made everyone laugh and cry. Rhys's best man, his college friend Lucas, told embarrassing stories. Colette gave a speech about Isla being the smartest and most stubborn person she knew, which is exactly what this man needed. As night fell and lights twinkled in the trees, Rhys pulled Isla onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. We did it, he murmured against her hair. Did you doubt we would? Every moment until you said I do. She laughed. Liar, you were sure. I was hopeful. There's a difference. They swayed together, surrounded by people they loved, in a moment that felt suspended in time, perfect and fragile and worth every risk. And then the lights went out. Complete darkness. Guests gasped. Someone screamed. Chaos erupted as people bumped into chairs, into each other, panic rising. Everyone stay calm, Rhys's security chief shouted. Emergency lights coming on in. But before the lights could return, someone grabbed Isla's arm and yanked her away from Rhys. Isla, Rhys shouted into the darkness. She tried to scream, but a hand clamped over her mouth. She was being dragged toward the garden's edge, away from the venue, away from safety. Her heart raced. Training kicked in. She stomped down hard on her attacker's foot, elbowed backward into their ribs. The grip loosened. She twisted free and ran blindly through the darkness, terror coursing through her. Isla, Rhys's voice closer now. Here, Someone tackled her from the side. She hit the ground hard, the breath knocked from her lungs. Above her, silhouetted against the emergency lights that finally flickered on, stood Thalia Winters. But she wasn't alone. Behind her, holding a gun, was someone Isla recognized, someone who'd been at the wedding, someone she'd trusted. Marcus Chen, Rhys's lawyer. Hello, Mrs. Kincaid, Thalia said, smiling coldly. Sorry to crash your reception, but we need to have a conversation about your husband's future, or rather, his lack of one. And as security swarmed the area and Rhys finally reached Isla, pulling her into his arms, they both realized that the real game, the dangerous, deadly one, had only just begun. Put the gun down, Marcus, Rhys said, his voice deadly calm as he shielded Isla behind him. I don't think so. Marcus kept the weapon trained on them, his expression apologetic but resolved. I'm sorry, Rhys. I really am. But I have debts you can't imagine. And Thalia here has promised to clear them if I help her take control of Kincaid Industries. You've been working for her the whole time, Isla said, pieces clicking into place. You leaked the files. You sabotaged the security at Rhys's office. You told her everything. Not the whole time, Marcus admitted. Just the last 6 months. When I realized Thalia was serious about destroying Rhys, I figured I might as well profit from the inevitable. Coward, Rhys spat. Security guards surrounded them, weapons drawn, but Thalia held up a hand. Before anyone does anything rash, you should know that I have insurance. If anything happens to me, a file gets released. Every dirty secret about Kincaid Industries, offshore accounts, legal grey areas, things that would make the board remove Rhys instantly. You're bluffing, Rhys said. Am I? Thalia pulled out her phone, showing them a screen. One button. That's all it takes. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign over 30% of your shares to me. That gives me enough voting power to control the board. You stay on as CEO, but you work for me now. Never. Then I release the files, the board removes you, and I buy up shares during the chaos and take over anyway. This way is cleaner, easier, and you get to keep your reputation intact. She smiled. Plus, your lovely new bride doesn't have to watch you lose everything on your wedding day. How romantic. Isla's mind raced. There had to be a way out of this, some leverage they had that Thalia didn't know about. And then she remembered. The codicil. The trust clause. What if I told you, Isla said slowly, that Rhys already meets the trust requirements? Everyone turned to look at her. We're married, she continued, as of an hour ago, which means the trust clause is satisfied. The board can't remove him for failing to meet his father's requirements. Any takeover attempt from you would be purely hostile, and with Rhys's performance record, the shareholders would never support it. Thalia's smile faltered. That doesn't change the leverage I have with the files. Actually, it does, Rhys said, catching on, because those files include records of my personal compliance with the trust. If you release them, you prove that I met every requirement my father set. You undermine your own argument that I'm unfit. Plus, Isla added, the files show you've been conducting corporate espionage, theft of proprietary information, bribery of company employees. She nodded at Marcus. That's several felonies. Release those files and you go to prison. Thalia's face flushed with anger. You're bluffing. Try me, Isla said coolly. I've spent the last 2 months studying luxury hospitality law to understand Rhys's business. I know exactly what crimes you've committed, and I know that Detective Rousseau from the Geneva Police is very interested in talking to you about the data breach. As if on cue, Detective Rousseau emerged from the crowd of security guards, her badge visible. Ms. Winters, we need to have a conversation. Marcus's gun wavered. Thalia, you said this was foolproof. Shut up, Thalia hissed. Mr. Chen, Detective Rousseau continued, I'd recommend you lower that weapon. Assault with a deadly weapon carries a minimum sentence of 5 years in Switzerland. Marcus looked between Thalia, the detective, and Rhys. Then slowly, he lowered the gun. Security immediately swarmed him, taking him into custody. Thalia backed away, her composure cracking. "This isn't over, Rhys. I'll find another way. I always do." "Actually, it is over," Rhys said. "While you've been focused on destroying me, I've been quietly buying up shares in your company. As of this morning, I own 35% of Winters International. Congratulations, Thalia. You now work for me." Thalia's face went white. "That's impossible. My board would never—" "Your board doesn't know yet. They will on Monday, when my offer to buy the remaining shares goes public. You can either accept a generous buyout and retire quietly, or you can fight me and lose everything. Your choice." For the first time, Thalia Winters looked genuinely afraid. "You can't do this." "I just did." Rhys pulled Isla close. "Now get off my property before I add trespassing to the list of charges." As Detective Rousseau led both Thalia and Marcus away, the wedding guests erupted in stunned applause. It took a moment for Isla to realize they were clapping for her and Rhys, for standing up to the threat, for winning. "That," Colette said, appearing at Isla's side, "was the most dramatic wedding I've ever attended. And I'm French. We love drama." Isla started laughing, the tension breaking. "I think we can officially say our wedding was memorable." "Memorable?" Rhys shook his head. "Our wedding had a literal villain with a gun. That's not memorable. That's traumatic. But we're okay." Isla cupped his face. "We're married. We won. And Thalia's finished." "Not yet." Rhys pulled out his phone. "I need to make sure the Winters acquisition goes through. I need to alert the board. I need to—" Isla took the phone from his hands. "You need to dance with your wife. Everything else can wait until tomorrow." "But tomorrow, Rhys. Tonight, we celebrate that we're alive, we're together, and we're starting our marriage the way we'll continue it, as a team." He looked at her, and something in his expression softened. "When did you get so wise?" "I married well. It's rubbing off." She held out her hand. "Dance with me?" "Always." They returned to the dance floor, and this time, when the music played, nothing interrupted them. They swayed together under the stars, surrounded by people who loved them, celebrating not just a marriage, but a victory. "I can't believe you bought 35% of her company," Isla murmured. "I started buying shares the day after she leaked our files. Figured the best defense was a good offense." "That's actually brilliant." "I have my moments." He spun her gently. "Though I'll admit, your legal knowledge bluff was pretty impressive. Do you actually understand corporate espionage law?" "Not even a little bit. I was completely making it up." Rhys laughed, a real full laugh that made his whole body shake. "We're perfect for each other. Perfectly terrible at following rules. The best kind of perfect." They danced until late, until guests started drifting away, until only close friends and family remained. When the last song played, Rhys dipped Isla dramatically, kissing her to cheers from the remaining crowd. "Ready to start our honeymoon, Mrs. Kincaid?" he asked. "Where are we going?" "Provence, to see your new hotel. I have plans." "What kind of plans?" "The kind where we turn your dream of creating meaningful hospitality experiences into reality. Together. No bets, no deadlines, just us building something beautiful." Isla's eyes filled with tears. "You're really doing this? Helping me with the hotel?" I'm investing in it. You're running it. It'll be yours, Isla. Your vision, your rules, your legacy. I'm just the annoying billionaire husband who occasionally offers unsolicited advice. Occasionally? Fine. Frequently. But you can tell me to shut up. I plan to. Often. He kissed her again. Soft and sweet. I love you, Isla Kincaid. I love you too, Rhys Kincaid, my impossible man who became possible. Your impossible man who became yours. And as they left their wedding reception, hand in hand, neither of them knew that in 6 months their small hotel in Provence would become the most sought-after destination in Europe. Neither knew that their love story would inspire countless articles about how vulnerability is strength. Neither knew that they'd have 3 children who inherited Rhys's stubbornness and Isla's warmth, creating beautiful chaos wherever they went. But they knew enough. They knew they'd chosen each other, and that was everything. The Hotel Moreau Kincaid sat on a hillside in Provence, surrounded by lavender fields and olive groves. The building itself was 18th century stone, lovingly restored with modern luxury woven through historic charm. 30 rooms, each designed to make guests feel like they'd discovered a secret paradise. Isla stood in the lobby, watching guests check in with smiles that reached their eyes. This was what she'd always dreamed of, hospitality that felt like coming home, luxury that was about feeling, rather than just spending. "Stop micromanaging," Rhys said, appearing behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "Everything's perfect. The guests are happy. The staff is excellent. You can relax." "I don't know how to relax." "Funny. I remember you telling me the same thing 6 months ago. And look how well you've learned." She leaned back against him. "How's your mother's foundation doing?" After Catherine's death, Rhys had established the Catherine Kincaid Foundation for Cancer Research, funding experimental treatments and supporting families going through similar struggles. It had become his passion project, the thing that made all his business success feel meaningful. "We just funded 3 new trials," he said, "and we're partnering with hospitals across Europe. Mum would be proud." "She is proud, wherever she is." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching their dream come to life. In the 6 months since their dramatic wedding, everything had changed. Thalia had accepted the buyout and retired to obscurity. Marcus had been sentenced to 3 years in prison for corporate espionage. The board had unanimously reaffirmed Rhys as CEO, impressed by both his business acumen and his personal growth. And Isla and Rhys had spent every free moment building the hotel, learning each other's rhythms, figuring out how to be married while running empires. It wasn't always easy. They fought about design choices and staffing decisions. Rhys still worked too much. Isla still bit her lip when she was worried. But they were happy, messily, imperfectly, beautifully happy. "What are you thinking about?" Rhys asked, kissing the top of her head. "How this all started with a bet." "Best bad decision I ever made." "Second best," Isla corrected. "The first was letting me walk away and then chasing after me." "Fair point." He turned her to face him. "You know what I realized the other day?" "What?" "I never paid you." Isla laughed. "Paid me?" "The $50 million. You made me fall in love with you. You won the bet. Technically, I owe you. You gave me a hotel, an investment in my dream, and a partnership in building something meaningful." I think we're even. Still, a bet is a bet. He pulled out his phone, tapping a few times. There, 50 million euros transferred to your account. Rhys, what? You earned it. I don't want your money. I want you. You have me, and also 50 million euros. Win-win. She shook her head, exasperated and charmed in equal measure. You're impossible. Your favorite kind of impossible. Unfortunately, he kissed her, right there in the lobby, in front of guests and staff, and anyone who cared to watch. And when they pulled apart, Rhys whispered, "Thank you." For what? For taking a chance on a bet, for seeing past the money and the walls, for making me feel things when I'd forgotten how, for being my home. Isla's eyes filled with tears. Always. Forever. At least that long. They stood there, wrapped in each other, surrounded by the life they'd built together. And in that moment, Isla thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, desperate for money, guarded with her heart, sure that love was just another transaction. How wrong she'd been. Love wasn't a transaction. It was a revolution. It was choosing someone imperfect and being chosen back. It was building dreams together and fighting through nightmares side by side. It was laughing at your worst moments and crying during your best ones. It was everything she'd never known she needed. "Hey," Rhys said softly. "Where'd you go?" "Nowhere. I'm right here." "Good, because I have a surprise for you." "Another one?" He led her outside, to the hotel's terrace, overlooking the valley. There, set up beautifully, was a candlelit dinner for two. "What's this?" Isla asked. "Our 6-month anniversary." "Technically, it's our wedding anniversary, but I thought we should celebrate every month for the first year. Because I'm sentimental now, apparently. You've ruined me." Happily, they sat down to dinner as the sun set over the lavender fields, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. They talked about the hotel, about future plans, about the ridiculous argument they'd had that morning about whether to serve croissants or pain au chocolat at breakfast. They'd compromised and decided to serve both. And as stars appeared overhead and the warm Provence night wrapped around them like a blanket, Isla realized something profound. This moment, this person, this life was worth every risk, every scary decision, every moment of vulnerability. "I love you," she said suddenly. Rhys smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. "I know. Arrogant. Accurate." She threw a piece of bread at him. He caught it, laughing. "I love you too," he said. "In case that wasn't clear from the 50 million euros I just transferred. Money isn't love. No, but it can express love when words aren't enough. And nothing I could say would be enough to tell you what you mean to me. Try anyway." So he did. Under the stars, over a dinner that grew cold because neither of them cared, Rhys Kincaid, the man who'd once thought love was impossible, told his wife exactly how she'd changed his world. And Isla listened, holding his hand across the table, knowing that this was the real happily ever after. Not perfect, not without challenges, but real and chosen, and theirs. Sometimes the best love stories start with the worst ideas. A bet, a deadline, a transaction that becomes something real. Rhys and Isla's journey reminds us that love isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to be imperfect together. It's about choosing vulnerability over safety, connection over control, feeling over fear. Their story teaches us that the walls we build to protect ourselves often become the prisons that keep us lonely. True luxury isn't about what you have, but who you share it with. The best partnerships are built on honesty, even when the truth is messy. Sometimes you have to bet everything on love to discover it was worth risking everything for. And maybe, just maybe, the most impossible thing we can do is allow ourselves to be loved exactly as we are. Broken pieces, flawed decisions, complicated hearts, and all. Thank you for following Rhys and Isla's journey from that first daring bet to their hard-won happily ever after. If their story moved you, if you laughed or cried or felt something real, please like this video, share it with someone who loves billionaire romance, and subscribe for more stories about love that defies the odds. Because in the end, the greatest luxury isn't wealth or power or status. It's finding someone who sees you, really sees you, and chooses to stay anyway. That's the real fortune. That's the real empire. That's love. And that's worth betting everything on.